If you're tuning in, welcome to this segment that I decided to call Get to Know, a podcast within a podcast. I'm not sure if we're going to keep this on Thursdays or if we're going to move this to Wednesdays or another day in the week. But basically, what we do in this section is we talk to some of our future panelists and favorite creatives, be it music, comedy, podcasts, um, whatever it is that you're into, whatever tickles your fancy, and we talk about your upcoming projects, talk about your expectations for the main podcast, which is Hindsight 2020. As always, I am your host, Francisco Flores, joined by my co-host Arnold Treviño. And on this debut episode of Get to Know, we talk to uh, the ever lovely Alexander Leary of Good
What up?
Going and Chateau Lobby, featuring Stone Cold Steve Austin,
You know it.
just
We
old
got him right
chill in
here.
the back. You know it. So right there. And if you're digging this podcast, give me a hell yeah. Do it for old Steve in the back. So what's up, man? So how you been, dude? It's been a minute since I've talked to you. It's been a minute since we've seen each other. How's it going over there in Florida? I don't know if we can get specific. I'm just gonna say you're in Florida. How is it over there?
It is wild, actually. Supposedly, they're getting ready to reopen the state from the pandemic. So, like, a lot of people are
Uh
kind of
huh.
freaked out, which is kind of scary. I went to a restaurant today for lunch because I get to work from home, very fortunately. But when I went to the restaurant, they straight up had a like quarantine panel with like a
Do we
app
lose him?
where they handed you the credit card through a smaller flap. It was crazy.
Mm.
That's fucking wild. Yeah, I work at a restaurant here, and we're only doing like delivery, like pickup and delivery. And
Yep.
here in Texas, we're also going to be reopening soon, and I am not stoked about that. You know?
It's scary, man.
Um,
Yeah, like I mean, who knows? Like this could be
yeah,
way
yeah,
worse for us.
definitely.
We can get fucked.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And especially
Yeah,
because
we
Florida has a
could.
lot of old people. I mean, I'm
I
sure Texas has a lot of old people too.
Yeah, quite a bit.
yeah, a little bit. The majority of my customers have been like old people, so
Yeah.
uh, do with that information what you will. Um, but yeah, man. So, for those who may not know, which is possibly most of our listeners, let's get into how we met, Alex. How did we end up coming across each other?
So basically, I like got I guess hired or commissioned to play drums for a band called Secret Stuff. Like I don't know what was it 2017, so like 3 years ago.
About,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, so I got hired to play drums for them on their tour through South by Southwest and into Mexico, and we played in Laredo, Texas, and that's kind of where it all began.
Yeah, yeah. So, I know on that same tour you played across the bridge here in Novo Laredo, right? How was that
Yep.
experience like?
So that was, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that's the one place that our tour guide said was like the most dangerous.
The most dangerous? Yeah. You there, man? We're having some troubles with the
Yeah,
stream.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
I would imagine it being super dangerous.
I mean that's what they say, right? That's
Yeah,
what the
but
people say. But
there's they came out unscathed. I'm sure.
I mean, he's talking to us right now, kinda.
Ah,
Can you
Hey,
hear us?
welcome back. Yeah, there
welcome
you
Hey,
go.
back.
Welcome
I
back.
don't know what the heck happened.
It's cool, man. Hey, we're all having a good time here. Yeah. So your tour guide telling you beware of Novo Laredo. How do you
Yes,
remember what
yeah.
exactly you said?
I just remember him saying, if you decide to go out to eat or if you like want to walk around, just don't go alone, which seemed kind of strange. And then I recall whenever we actually did like get out of that area, he was like so relieved. Like he was just like, oh, thank God, like we're done with that. Like he's like, I'm so excited to get to the next spot, which seems strange, right? Like, I mean, I didn't think it was that scary.
Yeah, no. Nuevo Laredo catches a lot of bad flack. My dad lives there, so I used to constantly go over as often. Uh, I was gonna ask if you ate any of like the street corner hot dogs, but I think you're vegan, right? Or who were the vegans on that tour?
So I was
Can't
vegetarian
remember.
at that time. I'm no longer vegetarian, but Michael was vegan the whole time of the tour. So it was kind of Russell. He didn't have any
Yeah,
dietary restriction, so it was kind of just like this weird dynamic of trying to find a place that satisfied everyone.
yeah, I can imagine. Especially like the food over there is very meat centric. Like the
Oh
best
yeah.
spots are the taco
Yeah.
spots, the hot
Oh
dog
yeah.
spots. So it's definitely a challenge. um, but how was the show over there? Like, did you guys get a good turnout? Was it like a like where did y'all end up playing at?
So if I also have a like I feel like that tour happened so fast. There was like a lot of memories that I kind of have mixed up. But if I'm remembering this
Yeah.
place correctly, they actually had a pool there, which was like super
Oh,
cool.
that's
So it
nice.
was like a pool
Yeah.
party, which had a lot of people, which was awesome. But like if if it is the same show that I remember, we kind of played with a bunch of bands we didn't fit in with. It was kind of like some teenage metal bands and stuff that like we didn't really, you know, we were a pop
I,
punk band playing emo music, and then we were like guys just like shredding riff like.
the next band was just like a fucking metal cover band just doing like Maiden covers.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, basically, like not like sick
Nice.
metal like that we
Yeah.
think is like, yo, this is tight. Like, nah, it was like kind of cringe metal.
They weren't playing Nails or anything like that.
Right? Yeah, yeah. They weren't playing Ceremony's like first album, you know.
Yeah. Hey, that's a great segue into a brief introduction into the next episode that we're going to be having of the main podcast, Hindsight 2020, where we will be discussing ceremonies, the L-shaped man. How are you guys feeling about that? Y'all stoked?
I got something.
Oh, wait.
Does he
So
have the record?
no, even better. Should I tell him or wait? There, get it into focus.
The album
For every album.
So yeah, Arnold is taking it upon himself to draw from memory the cover of every album we're going to be reviewing here. So, um, ceremonies, the L-shaped man. So fun fact about that. So what I try to do, how we select the albums is that our featured guest normally is the one that picks the album that we discuss. The L-shaped man was actually suggested by Arnold, and then when I brought it up to Alex, he was like, "I know a lot about that record. Put me
Yep,
in."
yeah.
So that's kind of how that one ended up happening. Um, it's really cool that we're doing this record. It was it wasn't one that I've heard all the way through, mainly because I'm more used to their rowdier stuff, like their heavier stuff. So
Oh yeah.
uh, sitting down and actually listening to the L-shaped man was a cool little experience. Actually
Yeah.
taking the time to listen to it and reading articles about it and like actually knowing what it's about. I just thought it was just like a very like counter not counterproductive but like just kind of going against their fan base and being like, you guys want hardcore, fuck you, we're doing like a post-punk album now,
Like a counterculture to the counterculture.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
so I'm really excited to talk about it. Also on that episode we're going to have the man who is basically responsible for us meeting Michael of Secret Stuff is
Mhm.
going to be on that
Yep.
episode too. So it's going to be cool. It's going to be a little emo reunion, and
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. So like I said, in this mini cast, we kind of introduce our future guests. So I met you as a drummer. How long have you been playing drums for?
So that's a tricky question. I think I was either 14 or 15 when my parents one day just like bought me a drum kit as a surprise. Like I told them I was interested in learning like an instrument, and then it just kind of, I said like, oh, drum sounds cool, and then the next thing I knew, my birthday, I had a drum kit. So I mean, it's been about 10 11 years or so that like I've been doing it. Yeah, so about a time. And then for like guitar and stuff, I mean, I only recently picked that up in the last year and a half, like 2 years or so.
Oh, cool. That was actually going to be my next question. I was going to ask, as a since you're kind of like the sole member of Good Going, right? Or do you have
Yep.
another other band members with you, or do you kind of do everything yourself when at least the recorded tracks? Is that just you?
Yeah, so it's like it's a little bit of everything. I've kind of experimented with a whole bunch of different options. Like so, like a lot of the stuff I've released, I've reached out to like obviously like my friends who I trust and know are like great bassists, or like the guy who produces my music. He even fills in on guitar and stuff on some of the tracks. So it is just kind of like a combination of things. But this project as a whole, I'm kind of trying to do is like I'm aiming for like longevity, like I just kind of want to be able to do it on and off as I please. So I'm trying to get better at just kind of doing everything all on my own. Like the track, segueing into what I'm releasing tomorrow. The track I'm releasing tomorrow is actually something where I recorded all the parts to it, and like I did the bass, drums, guitar, all that. And then basically I did a mix and sent it off to my buddy who does a studio here in Jacksonville, and he mastered the track for me. So
Cool, cool, cool.
Nice.
So, as you mentioned, you do have a new track coming out. Can you tell the people what's it called and what can they expect from it?
well, hopefully expecting good things. I
Yeah,
hopefully people like
That's always what
yeah.
we want, right?
Yeah,
right.
yeah. But yeah, basically the track it's called Paprika, and it's actually like I don't know if you guys are like any anime fans or anything,
Hmm.
but I
Oh, yeah, yeah.
definitely definitely love anime, and I'm like a huge advocate for movies. I think movies is like one of the most like important forms of art. And there is a movie called Paprika. I don't know if you
Hmm.
guys have seen it. Definitely worth watching. Like, I mean, highly, highly recommended if you like something, that is kind of dreamy. And like, if you're somebody who does dream and remember your dreams, it's like a really important movie just because it has a really cool way of explaining things. But the track is kind of based loosely along those lines of that movie, just because like there's so many different dynamics between the characters of when they are in the dream world, and just how easily like your emotions become so much heightened like when you're in a dream. Like you fall in love so much easier, but you get so much more angry easier, and then you wake up and you think about the dream and you're like, man, I was acting irrational. And then you go
Hmm.
back into the dream and you start doing everything irrational again. It's
Yeah.
just a strange dynamic. So it is something like I just watched that movie and I just felt like instant inspiration to like write a song. So I just kind of took everything I could from that and how I view, dreaming and art, and kind of putting that together into a track.
And
Nice,
how's
nice.
your process when you kind of like create any song or this song? Like, do you vocals first? Do you write the lyrics first? Like, how do you go about creating a song?
That's a great question. So I've been told that this is the bad way of writing music, but I generally like to write the instruments first.
Hmm.
Because if I get inspiration, like I mean I know Francis, like you guys have sort of listened to Boyson before, like what it
Hmm.
is. It's a very like emotional kind of music. Like it's very like post rock, explosions in the sky kind of stuff. So a lot of that carries over into Good Going, where like if I get inspiration, I want to write like a mood around that, and then just
Hmm.
kind of take that inspiration. And then, I always see like, oh, well, lyrics and everything else is going to fit in there regardless, like every song's going to be played in 3/4, 4/4, or whatever, like it's
Yeah.
all it's all stuff that's been done before, unfortunately, because there's so many artists, but the lyrics can just be kind of like I feel like they should just kind of come naturally. You should hear the song and then you should be humming along to something that's not even there. So that's kind of what I try to do. I write all the parts. I listen to it like literally at least once or twice a day, like on my way to work, while I'm at work, whatever I'm doing. And then I just kind of try to hum along and just figure out like, well, these are the lyrics I have. This was the inspiration. And I just carry that over into recording more and more.
Nice. Yeah, I don't think there's like a right or wrong way to write a song. I know when Arnold and I were in a band, we definitely experimented with writing the instruments first, or just having like lyrics first, and then just kind of figuring out the melody as we went along. So I think either way is definitely valid. You just kind of go about it. So if this song is inspired, or yeah, you could say inspired by this movie, and you said
Oh yeah,
dreams are a big part of the movie. Can you say like it'll be like a dreamy listen, like a dreamy atmosphere, in the song? Is that kind of what we were looking at?
yeah. I mean, that's definitely the mood I went for. And also, I mean, I would even go as far to say this is one of the songs that like I've spent the most time writing and most time rewriting, because the movie it actually, like, it was something I had wanted to see for so long. And then my girlfriend, she actually bought it for me for Christmas. And so finally being able to watch it and then just being so mesmerized and having that inspiration. I mean, when was Christmas? Like, we're talking, 4 or 5 months ago.
It feels
And
like years at this point.
yeah. Yeah, so I spent tons of time just rewriting it, redoing it, listening to it over and over, and trying to figure out. And also, like, there's so many things that go along with like writing music when you don't know an instrument super well. Because I wouldn't say I know guitar super well, but as my skill like gets better, I want to write better songs. So if I write a song that I'm not entirely satisfied with, I always see it as like, well, this is in the end, because I know if I keep practicing, I'll get better. I'll find more inspiration, and then I can kind of keep writing it.
Yeah, 100%. It's like you understand that you're limited to what you know right now,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's like when you're playing a video game. You know what I mean? You gain that XP, bro. You level up.
yeah.
You gain more stuff. That's that's
I
what
mean,
we're
honestly,
doing.
I was raised on video games, so like 100% agree. Like, dude, it it gives me this false confidence, sort of like there's nothing I can't learn as long as I get the XP. Like
Exactly.
if I want to know computer science, I just got to get the XP, man. You just got to
Yeah,
freaking do
man.
it.
Just gotta grind it out a couple levels, and then you get there.
Exactly,
Uh,
man. Yeah.
yeah. So you've got this project good going. I've listened to, I think, most of the tracks that you've released under that name. I followed the project for a minute. The one I haven't heard yet, and I think as a friend and as a host for a podcast, I need to be honest about this stuff. If I don't know the source material, I'll be honest. I
Oh
haven't
yeah.
heard I haven't heard Chateau Lobby yet. I need to check that out. So can you kind of explain to me how that project came about and kind of what it is?
Oh yeah, for sure. So that is this one may be a little bit of a long story, but
Mhm.
basically, I used to be in a band many years ago called Dead Relatives, and it was me, my friend Justin, my friend Sam, and my friend Mike. And we did a couple of shows, and we never really officially broke up or anything. We just kind of like faded away, and then unfortunately, our friend Mike passed away. So we kind of just dropped that project as a whole and just kind of left it, because it was more of Mike's project than it was anybody else's. So from there, basically Sam and Justin and I, we just kind of kept like loose contact with each other. I mean, obviously we're still good friends, but they ended up getting their own, their own lives and jobs and girlfriends, whatever. And I, went the other direction, whatever. And then eventually, Sam and Justin wrote a handful of songs, and they just kind of reached out to me, and they were like, "Hey, man, we wrote some songs. We're serious about doing a band again. We all love each other. We're all like, hey man, we all know we're good friends. We all know each other pretty well. We had already done a band before. So they came to me with these songs, and they're just like, hey, so like, what do you think? Can we do it? And I was like, hey, like, if you guys are serious, like, we'll do it, because I mean, they're easily some of the most talented guys I know in Jacksonville. I mean, they just shred and just are so good at songwriting. So basically, we went from there and we started to record a couple of songs. And the guy we were recording with, who is also my producer for Good Going, he ended up joining the project as the other guitarist and singer. So we've been kind of going through and we've recorded some more songs, and we already have just the one single out, but that's going to be a part of a roughly, I say roughly if we can finish it all, but like a 5-song EP that should be finished by the end of the year. We have one single that we plan on releasing. That's kind of like on the low right now, but like that next single will either be in the next few months or so. Just, whenever we're finally satisfied and the pandemic kind of lifts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited to hear it. Both the single you guys have out now and whatever you release in the future. Since the main podcast, the Hindsight podcast, we talk about albums that, were kind of defining to us, as music listeners, or, culturally speaking. What is an album that you would say is like, like a defining moment in your musical history, like an album that you were like, holy shit, that really, really clicked with you?
There's so many, man. Like,
It's hard to think right off the top of
Yeah.
your head.
yeah, for sure. Man, yeah, and I mean, I can think of so many albums that just mean so much to me. For just so many reasons, like when I heard them in that time of my life, or just like hearing that talent and hearing music that way for the first time. I mean, just like a couple of, like, I can name off the, and also like naming albums is hard. Naming bands is easy. like
Yeah. True,
I mean,
true.
like the Hotelier, man. Like I could listen to their discography like front to back and just like just freaking over and over again, no problem, or even bands like American Football, like just classic staples in the emo scene, just hearing that talent and hearing it in such a different way. There's also a band that I'm really into, and I just finally got their record on vinyl, a band called Soul Control. They're not around anymore. They were an old hardcore band from the early 2000s, but I mean, they just wrote like just incredible music that like I wish more people could have heard when they were around, stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, talking about like, albums like that inspired you, what's like a guilty pleasure album to you? Like something where you're like, I don't
Ooh.
want to really mention that to people.
That's a good question.
Well, so I don't know if you guys listen to him, and I get this a lot. Like people know that I listen to this band because of this kind of music that I write. But Cigarettes After Sex, like they're pretty much like just drowned out in reverb and just like synth pad, like the whole way through the song. And like they are just, huge inspiration to me. Like it is kind of embarrassing to admit that like I like them, just because like people are like, oh yeah, it makes sense. Of course you like those guys. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Thanks.
Oh. Yeah, that's always weird, like I felt that way too. Or it happens like that when like you tell somebody that you like a band and they're like, yeah, of course you would, and then you kind of feel bad about it. Like, no shit, of course I would. It's a good band. Like that's how I feel about like Death Cab. When I tell people I like Death Cab for Cutie, they're like, of course you fucking like them. Like I was like, what is that supposed to be?
Man, actually, that does remind me. There is one band that I would. There's probably like two of my absolute favorite bands. I would say is a band called Frightened Rabbit, who I actually found out about them because of Death Cab for Cutie, because they are huge fans of Frightened Rabbit. Unfortunately, they're not around anymore. Their vocalist passed away, but incredible band. Entire discography is just it slaps. Like freaking listen to it if you get the chance. And then Motion City soundtrack is like, I mean, a lot of people know this about me. That's my absolute favorite band of all time.
Good
They're the
band.
only band I have 2 tattoos of. So I have 2 separate tattoos of Motion City soundtrack.
Motion City?
Yeah.
That's dope. That's dope. I hope one of them is just the acronym for "Let's Get Fucked Up and Die" somewhere on there.
It's not actually. I got a "Everything Is All Right" tattoo, and I got "My Favorite Accident" on a tombstone.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's easily like that band, that drummer. Like I love watching YouTube videos of him. Just he has such a freaking like steez that is just unmatched by any other drummer.
I got into Motion City from Burnout Revenge because they had My Favorite Accident on there.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Hell yeah, so dude. That was the game. Funeral for a Friend was on there, man. That's so sick. Rufio was on there.
It was a good. It's like for video game album, like or tracks. Like that's a good game to go to.
Yes, that and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, like all the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Yeah, always Tony Hawk.
Had the dopest soundtrack. All of those extreme sport games had dope soundtracks.
Dude, man. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
They definitely just like were a big part of who I am as a music listener, just listening to their soundtracks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
There was one band, did y'all play Pro Skater 3?
Oh yeah.
Pretty sure, right? Yeah. There's a song on there, and this was back in like the LimeWire days. I could never find this band's discography, but remember Body Jar? They had a song on that album. On that soundtrack. The song "Not the Same." That was so dope. It was like some like early-ish pop punk, and every time I try to look for more of their material, they're like off the grid. Like that's the only song that ever pops up.
Interesting. Yep. I need to do some searching on that.
If I look them up on back then when I was looking them up on LimeWire, or even now that I YouTube them or whatever, it's the only track that pops up, and there's not even like original album art. It's just the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 cover.
Wow.
They're like this like. There's this lost band who had a fucking banger. It was a great song.
And they had to be somewhat famous because they're on Tony Hawk.
Yeah, they were on the game. So it's
that's a big deal. Yeah.
So where are these guys?
Getting back to your song. Sorry, we got into non sequitur, but still.
No, I can talk about that all day.
You said you made the entire song on your own, correct?
Yeah. As far as recording, yep, and pretty much everything's on there.
What software, hardware did you use?
So for my interface, I use a PreSonus Audio 2, and then I also use their the PreSonus Studio 1 as like my DAW. And then as far as like all the mics and stuff that I used, so my brother-in-law, he actually it is like the weirdest thing to talk about. He actually got like semi-famous, and like his song was on like Jersey Shore, like on MTV and stuff, like super weird. But he, wait, what?
That's super.
That's fucking dope.
Yeah, but
like you get it where you can, dude.
Yeah, but basically he had a bunch of studio equipment left over from like when his band was around. And he was like, "Hey, dude, I know you're doing a project." He's like, "Just use whatever you want." So I have like literally just like a plethora of mics, just like a handful of mics. And I've just like, I kind of just rotate through them. Like that whole re-recording and going through it again process. Like I'll try a mic, and if I'm like, this sounds too bassy, I'll just like, pick up a different one and try it. Cause realistically, like it is like it's an XP thing. Like it's experience. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to be using and how I'm supposed to use it. And so I just kind of try it over and over. And then when I get something I think sounds good, I'm like, okay, well then, if I like it, I guess that's what's important, right?
Yeah. Nice. Interesting to know that you got like Jersey Shore money equals equals mics.
Yeah. It's crazy. He's a teacher now. So like he's come a long way.
So the song that got onto Jersey Shore, was it like what kind of song was it? Like some fist pumping album, like anthem, or was it like soundtrack to the shows. There's like some emo song like
It's
put during like a breakup scene or something.
it was actually like a super poppy band, and they're still around. You can look them up. They're called Dang We're on Fire, and
That's the
yeah,
name.
yeah. It's like early 2000s, super poppy, like punky, like it's almost like you know how Blink-182 went from like being a punk band to like being a pop band, you know? It's kind of like that little transition that they went through. But definitely, I mean, look it up, like listen to it for yourself, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be watching the show now, so just so I can like
I'm just
find out where.
Gotta find it, yeah.
With a name like that, Dang We're on Fire. I'm just picturing like Forever the Sickest Kids type, like
Yeah, like Warped Tour bands, yeah. That's
dude.
yeah.
Swoopy hair and like 1,000 bracelets.
Yes, yeah. There's like silly bands,
right? Like you're more bracelet than man at that point. You know?
Yeah.
You don't get sunburn in this whole like region.
You got a reverse farmer's tan, you know, like.
Yeah.
I can say that I used to be one of those guys. I think Arnold can account for that.
I can say that's a fact.
I had the super deep V's, dude, when PacSun was still around here. I don't know if you still have a PacSun, but
our PacSun went under.
We lost ours years ago.
I used to work for PacSun. Oddly enough, me and Russ did, yeah.
Nice.
I remember one of you guys talking about that.
Yeah, we both worked there for a little bit of time. Yeah.
Dope. I remember following you on Instagram. You were working at a donut shop. Was that still a thing? And is that as awesome as I picture it being?
Actually, so it's like I loved it and I hated it. Because working at a donut shop, super sick, super awesome. Worked for the best people ever, and like I learned so much about baking. But my shifts, man, I was working like 1:30 a.m. to like 10 a.m. like 5 days a week. Like, so my sleep schedule got like just destroyed. And I mean, I did that for almost 2 years, and I mean it was great, but I just like I have a different job now. I got a way cushier, better paying job than making donuts at 1:30 in the morning. But I mean, it was delicious. It was awesome working there. I gained a lot of weight, and then I lost a lot of weight when I stopped working there.
Maybe there's a connection between that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
We talked about this before we went live. Yeah, we talked about this before we went live, but I want to bring it up now. Are you a wrestling fan by any chance?
Dude, I love wrestling. I went to the WrestleMania in Tampa a few years ago. It was I think it was like almost 10 years ago, and it was the WrestleMania where all those fireworks fell on people. I literally witnessed people running out of the stands like because like fireworks are exploding in the crowd and people are freaking out. I was like a kid. I was just a teenager. I was like, I'm terrified. Like, what the hell's going on? But it was the WrestleMania with Floyd Mayweather, the one where he I think he boxed the Big Show.
Oh, and he knocked out the Big Show.
Yes, yeah.
I remember that.
So I'm guessing you guys like wrestling then, yeah?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay, hell yeah.
It's funny because I don't know if Arnold used to like. I used to like it when I was in elementary and middle school, and then I kind of fell off from wrestling. And then a wrestling show came to our town, to Laredo, and tickets were like $20. So Arnold and I were like, let's see what happens. Let's go. You know, like it's $20. Why not? And I remember it was so funny. I forgot what year it was, but Dean Ambrose was still Dean Ambrose. He wasn't John Moxley off in another company. And we were watching a match. It was a match with Dean Ambrose. And there was a lady behind us who I'm assuming dragged her husband into this because she was explaining everything to him, like everything that was going on. Just like, so this is so and so, and the guy's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I don't know if you remember this, but it was hilarious because it was like a hardcore match or like a street fight with Dean Ambrose, and I just hear this lady behind us tell her husband like his superpower is that he's crazy. So the more you hurt him, the stronger he gets. And,
Oh, dude. That was
and that's when I was like, I'm a fan again. I'm down. Let's do this.
Yeah.
it's
I'm
like
gonna start watching Raw.
it's like roles reversed. Like whenever I'm watching it and I'm explaining to my girlfriend, like she's just like shutting me out. Like she's like, okay, yeah, all right. Like I would like mark out whenever Enzo Amore would come out on TV back when Enzo was on TV, and like I would say like the whole intro, and she would just like plug her ears and not want to hear it.
Do you guys have a favorite wrestler? Can I get that information from you real quick?
Yeah, you want to go
Dude,
first, Freddie?
If we're talking of like this current generation of wrestlers, Sami Zayn, aka El Generico, just because he comes out to a ska song, I love him. I love him to death.
Ska's coming back.
Ska's coming back, dude. And if we're talking of all times, favorite wrestler of all times, the whole fucking show, Rob Van Dam.
Dude,
RVD,
Rob Van
he's-
Dam, yes.
he's
Ooh,
my boy.
yes. He was on the cover of High Times.
Hell yeah, he was. Of course he was. I wouldn't have it any other way. Uh, dude,
I'd say for me, like right now, like I'd say like Kenny Omega, like since he was like the leader of Bullet Club, was like definitely like my shit.
uh-huh.
But like for WWE, like it's kind of hard now because like all this whole
Every-
quarantine stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say honestly, like forever, Eugene.
Eugene.
Dude. Young Master Eugene, dude.
Yeah.
What about you, Alex? Who we have on your who's your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers right now?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. So I don't really know a whole lot of the newer wrestlers. I've kind of fallen off of watching it just because of like life and whatever the hell else I do with my time. But I heard that Christian was back, and he's always been a personal favorite of mine. Like he's wrestling again.
Oh,
Yeah.
Captain Charisma. That's what.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And then I also like of all time. Like when I was a kid, I thought Mankind was like the coolest. Like I thought he was freaking awesome, man.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah. Hell yeah. You know
Legend.
what? It's funny because everyone acknowledges him as a legend, but when you ask people who their favorite wrestlers are, I hardly ever hear Mankind, and he like
Mhm.
Oh. Dude.
yeah he gave us some of the most iconic moments in wrestling history, dude. Like,
Oh yeah, dude, freaking Mr. Sacco and all that. Like, are you
Hell
kidding
yeah.
me?
Rock and Sock Connection, dude.
Yes, yeah.
Like the tag team that didn't make sense, but it did.
But it did, it
Yeah.
I hate that I can't give credit where credit is due to one of the best wrestlers of all time. I can only call him a redacted because of you know,
'Cause of
history.
the
Yeah.
Uh, if you don't know who I'm talking about, there was a Dark Side of the Ring episode about him not too long ago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it at that.
Very
um,
unfortunate. I've heard a lot of conspiracies about it. There's a weird side of the internet that really talks about how he was framed, which is
Yeah.
very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no shortage of like conspiracies about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was like he was whacked. Like it was like a
Oh
hit
yeah.
and
Mhm.
all that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It really does suck, not just because of what happened, because that was just definitely a tragedy, but
Oh yeah.
it sucks that we can't acknowledge how fucking great he was and how influential he was to wrestling
Oh yeah.
today.
Mm.
He was a worker. He like
Yep.
worked hard in everything and anything he put his heart to, which was
Yep.
wrestling.
Yeah. I remember I think they came to Laredo like a couple days before
Yeah.
before that happened, and it
Mhm.
was by around my birthday. I went to
Whoa.
that SmackDown live taping in Laredo, and my parents didn't throw me a birthday party. Instead, they bought me and like two friends tickets to go to SmackDown,
That's
and
awesome.
and my birthday cake had a redacted action figure because he was my favorite wrestler at the time.
Ah,
So I was gonna go see him, and I was super pissed off that he wasn't at the show,
Yeah, he missed
and
it.
yep.
it happened, and it turns out all of this shit was unfolding at that time, and it's
Yep.
fucking crazy. It's fucking insane. So I could talk wrestling all day, but let's get back into
Can I ask one more wrestling question real
Go
quick?
for it.
yeah, go for it, man.
Are you guys a fan of Every Time I Die?
Yes.
Andy
Okay,
complains.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, then we all know, yeah, their guitar
The
player is
Butcher?
freaking, yeah, exactly.
The Butcher. That is
Yeah,
so dope.
they're one of the craziest bands I've ever seen live. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, these guys must be exhausted. Like,
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are definitely working.
yeah.
Yeah, man, those guys are fucking insane. I think I saw them like at a Warp Tour once,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
that was the one band that I was like, I'm definitely cool hanging out in the back because everything else here is getting
Dude.
way too fucking rowdy. I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna stay here where my glasses aren't gonna get broken. Like
That,
just
Yep.
chilling in the back.
that was the
Fucking
Warp
insane.
Tour where me and my buddies. It was before I think we started hanging out, Franny, but we kind of knew each other. That was
Uh-huh.
the same Warp Tour where anyone who was crowd surfing, me and my buddies were in like a circle where they would come with us. We would just drop them because for some reason
Oh yeah.
someone was just like, let's just do that because it's funny. And this old guy was crowd surfing to Every Time I Die, and he just stood up, called us assholes, and like left on a limb.
Uh, you guys want to know what's my favorite Every Time I Die fact?
Let's hear it.
Did any of y'all? I know Arnold did. Alex, did you ever watch Bar Rescue?
I mean, I know what it is. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite shows, and the host of
Really?
that show, yeah, I love it. I love trashy
John
TV like
Taffer.
that. And this dude, if any of our listeners don't know this show, it's basically this supposed world-renowned bar expert, John Taffer. He shows up at a failing bar, yells at you, calls you a failure, breaks half your bottle, and then fixes it at the end. Uh, Apparently, someone on Twitter asked him what were his favorite, like, what's his favorite, like, artist, like his favorite type of music, and his favorite band is Every Time I Die.
Hell yeah.
He fucking loves them, and I was like, hell yeah! I want to get him on an album, like on one of their albums, like right before a breakdown. I just wanted to be like, "You're wasting this fucking money," and you hear like, you hear a bottle smash, and then there's like a fucking breakdown.
Yes. Yeah.
Give me that, and I won't listen to any other band. Like I'll be like, I'm sorry, Death Cab, but it's just this album for the rest of my life.
It's Taffer time.
It's Taffer. So now that we're kind of gearing back into music, we have a couple viewers here. Whoever's watching, if you guys have any questions for Alex, let's talk about wrestling, music, anime, all of the above.
I got one question. So, given the quarantine and everything like that, like I don't know how much left of 2020 we'll have after this.
Mhm.
But what's your goals for the remainder of 2020, like musically?
Well, so I don't like to humble brag, but I feel like I'm at a bit of an advantage just with all the like equipment I have. So I have been very busy like recording. I've actually recently like joined another project and I've completely recorded their demos. So I'm actually playing drums for them. They're called Rose Wilder. You can find us on Instagram just for right now. But yeah, I mean that's how I'm spending a lot of my time. As far as like good going, like for the rest of the year, I actually have roughly about a song a month that I'll be releasing for the remainder of 2020.
Nice.
I may take like a little bit of a break, but as far as my uploads go, I mean I have a lot of it finished, and I'm gonna try and catch up and try and get ahead of 2021. Just in the event that our whole country is reopened and they have a vaccine and everything is like incredible and good and we're all, going to shows again, I pretty much just want to have like as much material, as much content as I can put out like as possible, which like has been great because I mean, we're all stuck at home and that's pretty much how I spend most of my time is, recording, listening, like fine tuning things. Like I've tried to, find better gear and stuff to work with. But yeah, I mean that I have a lot of plans and I have a lot of stuff going. It's just, a matter of time, just letting it kind of release as it falls now.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So, once everything clears up, the country's open back up. There's a vaccine, and we're all good. Any chances we get you back in Texas?
It's more likely than you think, because I'm still in contact with the pretty much the tour guide / booking agent that booked us for all of our Mexico tour. So he is always talking, or, before the pandemic, he was always like, hey man, like whenever you're ready to come back, come hang out with us. We're ready to have you. So, I mean, Texas is the destination to get there. So, like that's the plans.
Nice.
Dope. Yeah. Let's if you ever come down, let's hang out. I know some good taco spots, and I don't know if that's
Hell
something
yeah.
you're into now.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna ask. So, is the record store that we played, or is it still around where you guys are?
Unfortunately, not. They're trying to reopen,
Mhm.
but I think it's at a different location. I'm not too sure about that. I miss it. It was a great venue.
It was cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a cool spot. I also that's kind of where I started doing stand up. So good memories attached to that place.
Hell yeah.
Um,
Are you still
yeah,
doing
man.
stand up?
Yeah, well, can't right now, but
Right, but I
good.
mean,
It's
you
a lot.
still write?
It's called
Yeah,
sit down now.
it's
and
called
Sit
sit
down.
down. I'm sitting on this exact same stool in front of this exact same laptop.
Hell
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I'm still writing. I'm
Good.
working on a half hour, uh, loosely based on one of my favorite albums, which is "Something to Write Home About" by the Get Up Kids. So
Oh, whoa, yeah,
yeah,
okay.
so can I combine emo music and comedy? I don't know. We'll find out. You know.
I mean, really, I think you could.
So yeah, man, it was. We've got about 10 minutes. This is not like the main cast. I'm a little shortening a little bit. I don't know if we have any questions, but if there's anything that you want to plug, your projects, um, any anything that off the top of your head that you would like to share with our viewers, floor is yours, man. Let us know.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I was saying earlier, I mean, I do have, too many projects right now just because of what's going on. But I mean, if you guys want, like, I mean, definitely check out the single that's coming out tomorrow. I mean, it's something I've worked really hard on, so I hope people like it. And I mean, I'm gonna have tons of content coming out afterwards, like in the next few months and stuff. So definitely check out Good Going. I mean, I update the Instagram a lot, so I don't really update the Facebook. But if you just put in good__going, you can find me on Instagram. Or if you just want to follow me, like I'm just at Jeet Sweezus. It's Sweet Jesus, just flipped around. Every time I tell people my Instagram name, they're like, "What the hell did you just say?" I'm like, yeah, just let me
It's such
spell
a
it for
good
you.
Instagram. I actually really fucking love it. So real quick, we did end up getting a question from a friend of the pod, Ramiro Hernandez. He's asking, speaking as a fellow musician and as someone that has experienced it, do you ever feel burnt out on music, like writing or just listening to music?
Oh man, all the time, dude. Like, uh, especially when you finally get to the end point of like writing something, like you get the inspiration, you write the music, and then like let's just say like you finish a whole song, right? At that point, I just feel like exhausted, and I know that's probably not like the most happy, hopeful thing to say, but it's true. I mean, even when I finally got the final master back of the song I'm releasing tomorrow, like it was like this huge sigh of relief. And I remember I was texting my brother, who he actually doesn't live in the United States. He lives in Indonesia, but I was texting him And I was like, man, I'm so glad this is done. And like, I just want to take a break. Like I want to have like the rest of the music lined up so I can just release it without even thinking about it and just be done with it, which is kind of why I'm trying to plan my year out. So that way, I can have a release without even thinking about it anymore. Like there's no rush to it. It's like, oh, it's uploaded and I know it comes out in June. Oh, it's uploaded and I know it comes out in July. Because working so hard on something, like, yeah, like it's exciting working on it, and you keep going and you learn new things, and it is really exciting and it's so much fun. And then you get to the end of it and you're just like, oh man, like I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I did it all. Like my brain can finally sit and just like stop thinking about the same thing, 7 days a week, about like how I'm going to upload it, what album art I'm going to use, if I like this guitar tone, if I don't like this guitar tone. Yeah. And even with listening to music, man, like I don't know if you guys ever experience this. I don't know if you use Spotify or iTunes or whatever. But sometimes I get in my car and like I have an hour drive to work and I have an hour drive back. And sometimes I have to sit there for like 5-10 minutes because I don't know what I want to listen to. Because I just like look at my phone and I'm like, there's this endless possibility of just songs that I've listened to hundreds and thousands of times. And like, what do you put on? Like, do I put on the song I've heard 1,000 times? Do I put on something new so maybe my brain thinks about music in a new way? Do I ask somebody for music suggestions? And if they give me a bad suggestion, like, am I stuck listening to crappy music for like an hour, like while I'm driving, Like,
Yeah, there's this band called Five Finger Death Punch, bro.
Dude, I'll check them out. Hell
They're
yeah.
fucking sick, bro.
I hear a lot of wrestling fans like them.
Right up our alley, dude.
But yeah, man, I mean, music, listening to it and creating it absolutely can burn you out. But with all that being said, I mean, something as simple as, freaking watching a movie I got for Christmas gave me this insane inspiration to spend months working on this song that like I knew, like, one, meant a lot to me, and I hope when I release it means a lot to other people. I hope they hear it and kind of get that feeling like, oh, like I know what he's saying, like I get that, like. But even if they don't, like, I know that I put the work into it and I put how I felt out there, and that's really what's most important to me. Like, whether it's like a huge success or a horrible failure and I wasted all my time, like I know I did what I needed to do for me.
Yeah, 100%, man. Let me see if we have any other comments or questions. If not, let's get back into the plugs. But yeah, no, that's a really cool a cool explanation. I know I've had that issue. Like I'm just burnt out with music, so I just started
Yeah.
listening to a shit ton of podcasts. Like maybe like I'll alternate. Like one week I'm just listening to podcasts on the drive home or whatever,
Yep.
just to kind of refresh my head a little bit. And then the next week I'm like, all right, cool, let's get back into new albums, and or just listening to the old faithfuls. Let's go back to the favorites. And then after that, it's like the next week after that, it's like, okay, podcast time. Let's just kind of keep it balanced out that way.
Yeah. I do have one thing I would like to actually to mention. If you guys do use Spotify, or whoever out there is watching uses Spotify, I do have a 2020 playlist I created on the Good Going page that you can follow if you want. That playlist just has every release of 2020 that I've been able to keep up with and I've discovered so far. I think there's roughly about 100 songs on there. But there is some good releases that I definitely have been enjoying a lot that have come out this year. One of the notable releases so far, my favorite, has been Dry Jacket. If you guys get a chance, definitely listen to their newest album. Dry Jacket is incredible emo band, absolute shredders. Can't recommend the song Cease and Decrease enough. Like, if every person in the world could hear it, I'd want that to be the case.
All right, well,
I'll definitely be checking it out. Yeah. All right, man. So let's just kind of bring it back in. Let's wrap it on up. This has been Get to Know with Alexander Leary. Again, if you want to follow his projects, they are
Good Going, Chateau Lobby, and Rose Wilder. Rose Wilder doesn't have any music, but you can find Chateau Lobby and Good Going on Spotify and Instagram.
All right, and if you want to follow him and just check out whatever he's into, whatever he's doing, you can find him on Instagram at Jeet Suisses, which again fucking great name.
Yeah.
Great day.
I post a lot of movies. So if you guys are in quarantine and seriously need movie suggestions, like 100%, send me a DM. Tell me what streaming services you have, and I'll send you what's available. Like, and if you've already seen it, great, because then that's one thing you can cross off your list. But there's a lot of good stuff out there right now, especially with how much all the streaming services are uploading, and I can definitely help you find some good entertainment.
All right, you heard it here. Alex is going to be on this Sunday's episode of Hindsight 2020, where we'll be reviewing and discussing Ceremonies, the L-Shaped Man. I'm really stoked about that. The other panelists
Yes.
are going to be Michael. I never figured out his last name. I don't want to kill it.
Full.
Fall. Michael
Yeah.
Fall. And one of my coworkers, his name is
Yes. Hell yeah.
Patrick Vasquez. It's funny the way I got him on the podcast. I was telling him how like almost very similar to how you ended up on the episode. I was like, I'm doing this podcast. We talk about music. Check it out. These are the albums we're gonna talk about. And he was like, "Is that the L-Shaped Man? I know a lot about that record." And I was like, "Fuck it, you're on, get on." So it's gonna be a fun episode discussing a very. It's gonna be fun times discussing a very somber album. And
Yes.
check back in on Sunday. And thanks for listening, you guys. Again, check out Alexander's projects. Do you still have merch for sale? Is that something that you would like to plug?
I mean, I have a little bit of merch left. If somebody was serious about it, I mean, yeah, I'll send it out to people if they just send me a DM.
All right.
Nice.
Well, hit him up for that, and we'll see you guys later.